Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates and the doors of your palace, your Mishkan, your Mikdash, your temple, your Ahal, your body. The vessel, your sentient self, within your 12 cranial nerves and your 12 million centers, within your corpus callosum, that separates your left and your right brain, through your frontal lobe, and your frontality, personality in your frontal lobe, in your mind. Down to your ears and to your mouth. Put your hand over your mouth if you spoke anything wicked against Yahuwah and his debar throughout the week. And bring your mind to center and your body to balance within yourself, within your yad and your kaf and your regal. And keep your feet when you come in the presence of Yahuwah. For Yahuwah is in the Shamayim, you only at odds. Let your words be few. For today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as a Shabath, that we may cease from our labors in our own self, in our own selfish self, that we may hear his mishpat, his shafat on our life. That we may understand how to walk and to live in righteousness as his children. For we know we are begging and moving in mischief, and we always have a heart for mischief. Knowing that these things exist within ourselves and the continual strife within ourselves. Knowing that the reproving and the rebuke, tukah of Yahuwah, is the remembrance to continue to make us joyful that we are his children. Because we don't have no tukah, you are not his child. You are not his child, and you will not have eternal life. When we look at ourselves, when we look at our inward man, we know that we cannot hate the light or our Father, for Yahuwah is light, and in him is no darkness at all. But we cannot hate the ore that's inside of us. If we hate the ore that's inside of us, then we hate him. Then we hate the light. And then we won't come to the light, even as Adam would not come to the light when he came into the garden, that his deeds may be reproved, which they did, they finally were. So as we move forward in the one who made all of the heart of the earth, all of the rivers and streams and the mountain peaks, the one who gives all understanding and all measurements to all the jaggeds of every stone on the earth, the one who gives understanding to all creatures of the earth and all the animals and all the things that you see, even down to the smallest caterpillar, to the largest behemoth, to the largest whale, to the largest tahanim in the earth, and the sea creatures and the sea monsters and all the things that man cannot understand or comprehend. Even the boundaries of the earth, even the boundaries and even the northern parts of the earth, where you only see 30 minutes of evening time, and it goes right back to night, right back to light. For we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward being, and the understanding is the composite of who we are, and the measurements that he made us in the breadth, the width, the depth, and the height of what a human being is, and the understanding of why you can hold so many different thoughts and so many different understandings and so many different seeds and understanding within yourself. Yahuwah Elohim. So this Yom, as we move forward in the understanding of who Yahuwah is and not ourselves. If we move forward in ourselves, we're going to lose sight of who he is. So this is the book of Nazarene, actually the Shalakim, chapter 16, both good and righteous. Right? So, hence, since so many erratic religions have been introduced into the world, we have been sent. He say, Anaknu, how you say, Shelak. He said, you've been sent to do what? As good merchants, bringing unto you the worship of the true Elohim Yahuwah. Why? Why do you say good merchants, right? So this is Proverbs chapter 31. Marshally Proverbs chapter 31 and 10. Marshally Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 10. It says, an excellent wife who can find? He said, who can find an excellent Isha in Nishim, right? Nishim. She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her. He said he trusts. Why? Because if he trusts her, then guess what happens? You know what happens? Then he can say, I can send you to do some things for him. I can send you to help me do some things. Okay? He says, since there are so many erratic religions in the world, we have been sent to do what? To bring to you the real true Elohim Yahuwah, right? And it says the heart of her husband trusts in her. So does Yahuwah trust you? That's the whole point. Does Yahuwah trust you? Because it's not, you say, do Yahuwah trust me? He said, return, O Yahshua, I am your husband. So do Yahuwah trust you? And it says, and he will have no lack of gain. He ain't gonna lose nothing. He ain't gonna lose no gain. You know, when you gain things, he said, I ain't gonna have no lack. When I send you out, you're gonna bring things back. You're gonna actually increase the things that I'm doing. she does him good and not harm all the days of her life, right? So you don't do Yahuwah good. You do Yahuwah good and no harm all the days of your life. How can you do Yahuwah harm? Like, how can you do Yahuwah harm? They say, think about that for a second. How can you hurt Yahuwah? And it says, she seeks wool and flax and works willingly with willing hands, right? So your hand, your yod and your kaf has to be willing to do it, not forced to do it. She is like what? She is like the merchant. She is what? She is like the merchant. To do what? She brings her food from afar. You know, like a ship, you know, a container. You ever seen a container ship? Or them big containers that's sitting at the port. And they have the actual containers on the port, on the ship. And then they go across the ocean with letters of credits, and they go across the other side. And they have to get letter of credits with a promissory note. You know what a promise is? You know, when you make a promise to somebody that you're going to actually do what you say you're going to do, that's what it is. It's just like that. A promissory note. I promise to do this for you when I arrive. Just like Yahusha is coming back, and I promise to come and get you when I arrive. The very same thing, you have promises that you make in the world. Those promises have to be fulfilled, or you will be said, you're not really trustworthy, are you? Because your first promise you couldn't keep. The first promise you couldn't keep. It's like Adam and Yahuwah in the garden, and they couldn't keep the commandments when they're in the garden. And then that first promise that Yahuwah said, hey, you know, you're going to do all here safely. But then they couldn't keep the promise. Then he had to extradite a cancel of contract. And by doing that, he said, here's the new contract. Because the first one you ain't really promised. You're not really trustworthy. And I can't really trust the fact that you ain't gonna do me harm again. And it says, she seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She is like the ship of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. Right, because you're gonna need to do that. We just read it. She rises while it is yet night. So when it's nighttime, Kashak, or how you say Layla, what are you doing? She provides food for her household and portions for her maiden. Right? So he's looking at the production, and she providing food for her household and her maidens, because a woman like this should be able to live with virgins. And be able to be an example to virgins, that virgins may understand what it's like to be this type of bride or a woman like you. And then by doing so, then what happens after that? You produce more women like you. Because you are an example to them that they can see, and then you know what happens after that? You get a whole bunch of women just like you. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. And guess what happens after that? She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. How are you going to get all your merchandise when Yahuwah doesn't trust you? You don't get up early, and you don't bring your food from afar, and you're not an example to other people. But these are all a part of it. But it says right here, her lamp does not go out at night, right? I can stop there. Going back to Nazarene after the Shalakim, both good and righteous. Hence, since there are so many erratic religions that have been introduced into the world, we have been sent as good merchants. Why? Bringing your food from afar, bringing you unto you the worship of the true Elohim Yahuwah, handed down from the fathers and preserved as the seeds of which we scattered these words among you. Why? Because you're planting a vineyard. She, with her hands, she plants a vineyard. What you gotta do? What do you do in the vineyard? You scatter seeds. And when you scatter seeds, what happens after that? Seeds, and then scatter amongst you, and place it in your choice to choose what seems to be right. Whatever you see in your hands, your own hands, to seem to be right. Just like you go to a apple orchard, or a place where there's apples or oranges in certain places, or mangoes or papaya or avocados, right? You go and pick with your own hand what you think is good. That look good for me. Because every fruit ain't good for everybody. Some people like it all dark and mushy and soft. Some people like it hard. They like to see it ripe in the sun. They want to put it in the sunlight. Everybody's preference is different. But at the same time, it's still the same vineyard. Some people like old store. Some people like the new. It just depends on what people like. I want to hear more old store. Okay. You go to old store. I want to hear the new. Okay. But at the same time, it's still the same vineyard. It says, for if you receive those things which we bring to you, you will not only be able to escape the incursions of demons. We're talking about demonic forces, shade, or in like other languages, jinn, or any other of these beings out here. They coming to you. Why? Because if you receive the bar, then they can't touch you. If you do it, they wouldn't dare touch you. You know what happens if they do it? And it says, but also to drive them away from others. Why? Because when you come in, they're going to leave. But at the same time, you will obtain the reward of ageless good things. Why? But those who will refuse to receive those things that are spoken by us will be subject in the present life to diverse demons of disorders of sicknesses, and their spirits after their departure from the body will be tormented forever, for Yahuwah is not only good but also just. So therefore, to eradicate these diseases and thoughts in your consciousness in the center of your body, you have to take the bar in with a mindset of, I'm going to take it and use it against my own flaws that the demons have and know, because they read my mind in 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 50 seconds. Depends on where your mind stayed at or your defenses. And guess what? They're going to use it. That's what they do. They're experts at it. Satan has trained them properly. They work for him. And guess what happens? So if it says, for if he were always good and never just to render to everyone according to his deeds, while we talk about good deeds, which is your righteousness, that is your linen, right? Because Yahuwah loves good deeds, according to the book of Tehillim. He loves that. The demons are only coming to corrupt your deeds. So it'd be dirty. Now you got filthy deeds, dirty hands, dirty feet. You know, dirty hands and dirty feet. Dirty room, right? You got a dirty room, dirty hands, and dirty feet. You know how you ever came into the house that clean, you be like, go outside and wash your feet. Get the actual hose outside and wash your feet, or why? Because you come in, they're gonna bring the dirt in. And then guess what the demons got a chance to do? They just follow your footprints. They look at your dirty feet, you come in, they say, ooh, he went that way. They're going to follow you right in. They're going to follow you. Look at his footprint all the way up the door. You already know where he at. Oh, he got hands dirty. Oh, you see where he touched the wall. You see where he touched the thing. And you will be having everything white. So he going to see. You know how you have white walls? Man, you will have everything white. So he can see all the dirt. Who came in here and put this handprint on my wall? Because the wall is white. You want them dark walls, but you ain't never going to get rid of them demons. You're going to walk in, your flow, everything dark, you ain't gonna be able to see no dirt. You be like, who tracked that in him? That was such and such. Who? That look like his foot. Let me measure his footprint. That's how you were gonna be in his house. He gonna measure your footprint. You be like, this match the footprint of somebody. This match the footprint of such and such. His hand. Notice how our handprints got fingerprints on it, and we have all these things on our hand, and we have these handprints on our hand. We have these marks, and we have them at the bottom of our feet. And people can actually track you when you do something evil, and they say, oh, this footprint belongs to such and such. This handprint belongs to such and such. And amazingly, when they take your fingerprint, they put it in something black, something dirty. Right? They get your feet dirty and to get your imprint. When you got dirty feet, your imprint shows. You be like, So anytime you do something dirty, they be like, we got the dirt right here. That's the only reason they want it. Because we got the dirt right here. Because, children of Adam is already set to do evil. Because execution against an evil work ain't soon speedily executed. That's why they try to get the dirt on you. They get your finger and your dirt. You go register a gun. They get your dirt and your fingerprint, and you know what happens? If you do something, we already got your dirt. If somebody steal your gun and use it, and guess what? And shoot somebody, then guess what? It's gonna trace back to you, not to them. Right? That's the contract you signed when you got mercy into Yahusha. And all that's a part of your life, right? People think but that's how his house is, right? It says, for if he were always good, he were and never just to render to everyone according to his deeds, goodness would be found to be injustice. For if it were injustice, if the disobedient and the obedient were treated by him alike. Why? Because why would he treat everybody the same? A person I trust, a person I don't trust. A person I always gotta watch. Right? Because if you like Cain, he definitely gotta watch you. Because Cain is evil. He like Cain. He like Martyr. He like Nimrod's son. They say from the wicked come wickedness, right? That's how evil he was. He say, oh, hold up, you like Nimrod's son. I gotta watch you. I don't trust you. I got my eye on you, right? That's how it works. But that's how it works, and that's how you should. This is Acts of Nazarene. Acts of the Shalakim, chapter 5. And it says, advantage V. It says, advantage to knowledge. So we must above all things hasten to the knowledge of the truth. That is with a light kindled thereat. Because, Yahuwah brought us out of darkness into this marvelous light. Because before, he said, when you kindle the fire on the Shabbat, what you do? You couldn't do that. But only the Kahan, the priest, could do that. But guess what? Yahuwah he said, I call you to be a community, a people, a multitude of priests to offer up praise to Yahuwah, right? And offer up sacrifices of praise, right? Continually. Even as a Kahan, we're able to see. But it said right here, so we must above all things hasten to the knowledge of the truth, that as with a light kindled thereat, we may be able to dispel the darkness of errors. Why? Because the darkness of errors, they couldn't light an actual fire during the Shabbat. They like, we can't light a fire. Only the priest can light a fire. But now he said, you know what? I'm going to turn you all into Kohanim. So therefore, everybody's responsible for your strange incense. That's your strange incense. That's your fire. Right? That's your sacrifice. They ain't got nothing to do with mine. So when you offer your sacrifice, don't be saying include me in your sacrifice. That's your stuff. And whatever Yahuwah recompense to you, that's what you get. But you ain't finna corrupt mine. That's the whole point. Because remember, you had a priesthood of people and the other people had to depend on them to offer a sacrifice. And that way, he said, hold up, you gonna count me with them? That ain't my fire. That ain't my stuff. Right? And that's the whole point. That we may be dispel the darkness of errors. For ignorance, as we have said, is a great evil. So when you have an intellectual consciousness in your thought process and how you live and how you conduct yourself, then guess what happens? Then you will lose your light. Because you're ignorant. It's a great evil. But because it has no substance, it is easily dispelled by those who are earnest. Why? Because you got to be real quick and earnest in your mind. For ignorance is nothing else than not knowing what is good for us. He say, that's all it is. If you don't know what is good, then you're going to do evil. So what's good? Good deeds. If you don't got good deeds, then guess what? You got evil deeds. Ra, Ta'ub and Ra. You're gonna turn into Malak Rasha, the adder-faced reptilian demon, or you transforming yourself into a Malaki that's full of light and kindness and gentleness, right? But even a Malak Rasha can put on white clothes, but on the inside they're full of darkness. And in Yahuwah there's no darkness at all. And Malak Rasha be having all white on, looking all great, but then killing you, destroying you, doing all types of evil, right? And that can take place, right? Because clothes don't make you good and evil. It's your inward man. Your inward man, right? And it says right here, once know, then ignorance perishes. Therefore, the knowledge of the truth has to be eagerly sought after. Like, you got to go after it with all your heart, all your mind, all your nefesh, your lave, your yetzer, your imaginations, your thoughts, every molecule, every proton, electron, neuron, quark, every thought process, every photon in your body, through your yod and your kaf and your regal, even your liver and your kidneys got to be pure. Even your thoughts and your mind and everything, your iron, you got to see everything. You got to be able to understand it. The 7 near and the 7 iron on the menorah. And you should have a golden lampstand. But you have golden lips, the golden poles to keep your thing lit always. Even throughout the 364-day cycle. Even throughout the 7 periods. Every single year. And you got to understand it on that level. Or you're going to be having dirty hands and dirty feet. And you be offering praise and doing things with Yahuwah. And you be like, where are your feet? Yahusha already told you if your feet ain't clean, you ain't clean. You be like, look at your feet. Your hands ain't clean. Where you been at? Where you been at? Like people say, I got natural. Look at my natural hands are clean and my natural feet. I go to pedicure every week, manicures and everything. I got the fresh water filtered in my actual faucet, filtered through my hot water heater. Paid $50,000 for it, man, and I'm clean as you know what. Man, my well water is pure. It comes down from the highest Himalayas. I have it shipped and imported into my house. No, that don't mean anything. He said, what you do with your deeds, your evil deeds, your evil works, right? Because it's an evil thing to have an evil heart of unbelief. It's an evil thing, right? And no one can confer it except the Nabi Amath, right? The Nabi prophet of truth, right? That's what Yahusha was. For this is the gate of life to those who enter in the road of good works, good deeds, going to the city of salvation. You say you ain't getting in here with no good deeds. Without good deeds, get out good works. Why would Yahuwah allow you to come in the city of light? The city that ain't gonna have no need of the shamash or the yard. Something so powerful like that. With Yahuwah and the Lamb is his son gonna be the kabod, the light thereof. Why would he let you in? When you see the operation of the priesthood, in Darei HaYamim chapter 9 and Darei HaYamim 23, right? You see all of the priesthood and the offerings they gotta do. You see all of that in Exodus chapter 25, 26, 27, Leviticus 16, Leviticus 14. You see all the things you can't eat in Leviticus 11. You see all the stuff you can't put in your body. Matter of fact, you go over to Bereshit, you already told Adam what to eat, but then man, they want to do what they want. Then Yahuwah said that in order to maintain this higher thought process, like Adam, you're gonna have to consume this. You gotta eat bread all the days of your life. If you don't eat bread, because he told you, man shall not live by bread alone, right? Who was that commanded to? Adam. He said you're gonna eat bread all the days of your life. But by every debar that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah, that's what Adam did not do. He ate bread. Like, you got the bread, but the only thing the children of Adam is missing is not living by every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. That's the whole thing. That's what they're missing. But then once you get that back, then you understand it. Okay, that's all a part of it, right? So going to 2 Kings, chapter 6. 1 Kings chapter 6. 1 Kings chapter 6 and verse 1. Aleph Malakim chapter 6 and verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 6 and verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 1. In the 408th year after the people of Yasharal came out of the land of Mizraim, so that's 408 years. That's 408 years. And amazingly, what is 408 equal to? You add 8 plus 4 equals to 12, right? What's the 12th letter of the alphabet? Lamed, Lamad. That's teacher, expert, guide. Right? You know what happens after that? After the people of Yasharal came out of the land of Mizraim, they came out. That's 400 years. That's a long time ago. You can't be saying, 400 years, we've been captivated. We've been in captive. You know how people say, 408 years now. So that's way long. So you can't use that as your excuse anymore. They oppressing us. So you can't use that as an excuse either. It's 8 years over 400 years. You passed the totality. You passed the 400 letter of the alphabet. Right? You now went from 400 to 8. Right? And you know what it says? And it says, in the 4th year of Shalom's reign over Yasharal, in the month of, it says Ziv here, but which is the 2nd month. We're not in the 2nd month, but the only reason I'm going here is for a reason. And he began to build the house. What are we doing the 2nd month? We should know this. What do you do in the second month? Kahanim, counting the Omer. You count 50 days to Kag Shabur. You should know this. You know, people say, I don't need to know this. Yes, you do. That's what you do in the second month. That's what you do in the whole second month. What are you supposed to be doing? Priest, Kahanim, that's the only thing you're supposed to be doing. You know what people doing? Doing other stuff. And then when the information comes, they be like, what you saying all that for? Hold up, man. I thought you was supposed to be doing the whole thing, like the counting, the Omer, and all that. So what do you mean, what am I saying all that for? Because if you ain't doing nothing, of course you're going to be looking like the same, doing the same thing. Right? This is all a part of it. And he began to build the house of Yahuwah. What are you supposed to be doing? Nobody go outside and build in hot, cold weather. Man, it's cold outside. Think about it. What house am I going to build in cold weather? In the snow? I'm going to be freezing my behind off. And guess what it says? Build a house of Yahuwah, right? And he began to build it. The house that King Malach Shaluma built for Yahuwah was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Now you see what you should be doing now. Making plans. You know how you say, you know how you make plans to get ready to do something. And he already had his measurements already measured out, how he's going to have it, what it's going to look like, and how it's going to be structured. Right? That's what you should be doing now. The vestibule in front of the nave house was 20 cubits long, equal to the width of the house, right? 10 cubits deep in front of the house. So this is literally thought out. This ain't some, oh yeah, I'm just going to start doing something. And he made for the house windows with recessed frames, right? All this is all part of it. He also built a structure against the wall of the house, running around the walls of the house, both the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chambers all around. So let's skip over. So all that's a part of it. Let's go to verse 7. Let's see what happened. And when the house was built, it was with stone prepared at the quarry, right? So he used the very materials that he used to dig it out. So that neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the house while it was being built, right? Because he had to use no hammer, no nails when you're using stone. You put enough stone on top of it, it's going to hammer itself down. I assure you that. And guess what happens? The entrance of the lower story was on the south side of the house, right? This verse 8. And one went up by stairs to the middle story, and the middle story to the third. So he built the house and finished it, right? You know what happened? And he made the ceilings of the house and the beams and the planks and the cedars. Why? Because he literally showing you how he did it. So why is this all important? Going to verse 11. Now the word of Yahuwah came to Shaluma concerning this house that you are building. If you will walk in my statutes and obey my rules and keep all my commandments and walk in them, then I will establish my bar with you, which I spoke to Dawid, your father, and I will dwell among the children of Yasharal and will not forsake my people Yasharal. What child was Zabulon? Because he said, Yahuwah is going to dwell with me. What do you mean? My husband going to dwell. You know what Leah said? He said, my husband going to dwell with me now. You know what she said? I'm going to call her name Zabulon. He said, I don't need Zabulon. You know how people say, you know the people in 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, they wasn't thinking about no Zabulon. They ain't think about it. They just now came, they ain't understand it. And I will dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. What do you mean? That's Zabulon. What do you think Leah said that? My husband gonna love me. We just talked about her husband does safely trust in her. She said, I'm gonna call his name Zabulon. He said, why? Because that's all a part of it. He said, how do you know this? What child was that? You had what? Rauban, Louis, Shamuan, right? Then you had Yehuda. Then Rakal got jealous. He said, Yahuwah judged me. You got Dan, right? Then you had Naphtali because she was wrestling with herself. Then, what? That's 6 sons, right? Then you had Leah say, you know what? I'm gonna give my handmaiden. You know what? Yahuwah give me good fortune. He called his name God. You'd be like, man, why he call his name God? Because that's all a part of it. He said, why would you give it? He said, gave her a child, Gad, right? And then she had another thing. She said, Yahuwah made me happy. I'm gonna call his name Asher. Right? So you go from 4, 6, 7, 8. Well, you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 sons. But then, what happened after that? Leah had cut a deal, and she said, you know what? You was endowed me. You know what happened after that? What happened after that? And what son was that? He gave you a nice son, right? What son was that? He said, Yahuwah has endowed me, and my husband will honor me. She called his name Zabulon. What happened after that? You see all that, right? But also, what was the son before Zabulon? Issachar. But that's all a part of it. And when you start to understand it, then you start to understand why things are made a certain way. Because had that 10th son not been born, you wouldn't be able to say, I'm going to dwell, and I'm going to be with the house of Yasharal. I'm going to dwell with the house of Yasharal. Because that 10th son needed to be born. Zabulon. He needed to be born, right? Going to First Kings, skipping over to, who's that, verse 11. Let's go to, just go back to verse 13, 6:13. 1 Kings 6:13. And I will dwell among the children of Yasharal and will not forsake my people Yasharal. Why? Because Yahuwah is not dwelling with you. It's Zabulon. So Shaluma built the house. Why? Because after the 10th letter of the alphabet, you got the yard. Because once you know what he did? He allowed him to build a certain part of the house, and then he gave him statutes and rules and what? He said, if you keep my statutes, my rules, then I'm going to dwell inside of your house, right? He came to inspect the house. After a certain period of time, so he built the house and finished it. And he made ceilings and houses and beams and planks, and he built the structure. 5 cubits. Now the word of Yahuwah came to Shalom, and then the inspector came. After he finished building that part, he said, you know what? I looked at it, man, concerning the building. He inspected the house. And you know what happened after that? If you will walk in my statutes and obey my rules and keep my commandments and walk in them, then I will establish my debar with you, which spoke to Dawid, your father. And I will dwell among the children of Yasharal, and I will not forsake my people Yasharal. He just inspected the house. Because you can start building and he inspects it. And then after that, you know what he did after that? So Shaloma built the house and finished it. So he continued to start working. Once the inspector came, he's like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. So Shaloma built the house and finished it and lined the walls of the house and on the inside with boards of cedar from the floor of the house to the walls of the ceiling. Now he started to deck it out after that. And you know what happened after that? And he covered them on the inside with wood and covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. Now he started to get a little creative. Once the inspector came, he started getting I'm going to get a little bit more creative with this thing. You know what happened after that? He built 20 cubits in the rear house with boards of cedar from the floor to the walls. And he built this within as the inner sanctuary into the most Kudash place. The house, that is, the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. The cedar within the house was carved in the form of gourds and open flowers. His all was cedar, no stone was seen. The inner sanctuary was prepared in the innermost parts of the house. The inner sanctuary was prepared in the innermost part of the house. He said, you don't want to put it on the outside. He said, you got to put it in the most inner part of the house. That means you can't have nothing on the outside should be able to affect what's on the innermost part. It's an inner court. That's the innermost sanctuary of the house. There's a reason why it's built that way. To set the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah. He said, I got to put that in the most inner part of the house. He said, well, I need to put that secret thing at in the innermost part of the house. And you know what happened after that? To set the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide and 20 cubits high. And he overlaid it with pure gold. He put that gold right in the center of his house. And guess what? He also overlaid the altar of cedar. And Shalom overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold all across in front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. And he overlaid the whole house with gold until all the house was finished. So when the inspector came, he's like, man, look at here, gold, flowers, Ark of the Covenant, inner sanctuary. He said, man, let me get this thing even more greater. Also, the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary, he overlaid with gold. The inner sanctuary he made with 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits, right? Cedars and olive, right? 5 cubits was the length of the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits length was the other wing of the cherub, right? Just like we talked about, they that wait on Yahuwah shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall walk and not grow weary. They shall run and not faint. But then you look right here, and it says that the cherub, and the other wing of the cherub, it was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure and the same form. Right? I wish above all things you speak the same thing, and there be no division among you. That means be perfectly joined together with the same mind and the same judgment. That's what he said in 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Why would he say that? And then it says, the height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that of the other cherub. He put the cherubim in the innermost parts of the house. He said, man, put that thing right in the middle of the house. Now you see why he said, I want y'all to speak the same thing. Same measurement, same everything. When you in your innermost part, because on the outer man, on the outer part of your body, everything is different. Male or female's body is different from a male. And some men are taller and some are shorter, and some women are taller and some are shorter. But when you're on the innermost parts of yourself, you should have the same thing. Everybody should have the same thing on the innermost parts. It should be the same measurement, same everything. Same cherubim, same everything. Same Ark of the Covenant, same everything on the inside. Your outer man look different, but your inward man still look the same. And you know what? It's renewed day by day. But guess what it says? He put the cherubim in the innermost parts of the house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out so that a wing of one would touch the wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. And he said, you walk in, all you see are wings in the innermost. You see a wing, you're like, man, that wing going all over there. That's all you see. Think about it. Walk in there right now in your mind. Walk in the innermost part, and you see the wing touching one side of the wall and the other wall. Can you imagine that? The other wing touched the other in the middle of the house. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold. Imagine it gold, and you walk in and you see cherubim. One wing touching the other wing, and the other one touching the other, and you see all at once, and they touching each other, and then you see the other side, and you see walking in, and it's gold. Around all the walls of the house, he carved and engraved figures of cherubim and palm trees. You know, right, like a palm tree. And open floor and open flowers in the inner and outer rooms, right? And it says right here, the floor of the house he overlaid with gold in the inner and outer rooms. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood, and the lintels of the doorposts were 5-sided. He covered the 2 posts of the olive wood with carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid them with gold and spread gold on the cherubim and on the palm tree. He also he made for the entrance of the naive and the doorpost in the olive wood in the form of a square, and 2 doorposts of cypress wood. The 2 leaves and the 2 doors were folded, right? So you had 2 leaves and 2 doors. So think about that. Think about that. And guess what happens? And the leaves of the other door were folded. On them he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold evenly applied on the carved work. So all these people talking about they got Shaluma's house he built. I'd be like, man, it don't look like that. What kind of house that is? That's something they made. They probably tore it down and put their little house on top of it. That ain't the same house. Just like they built on top of Belbek over there in Lebanon. All these other places that people be talking about. Man, hold on. I'm looking at the specs. I say, where the palm trees at? Where the flowers and the cherubim? What is in the Smithsonian Museum or something? What's in a vault somewhere hidden from everybody? And they say right here, he built the inner court with 3 courses of cut stone and 1 course of cedar beams. All that took place. You get what it says? In the 4th year, the foundation of the house of Yahuwah was laid in the month of Ziv. That's verse 37. And in the 11th year, the month of Bull, which is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts. He's saying the 8th month. He said it was finished. That was in the 2nd month he started. And in the 8th month, he finished it. He finished it. He finished it in the 8th month. And you know what happens? The house was finished in all its parts. Now you see, this is the 8th month. This is the last day of the 8th month. He said the parts were finished. Because you know what happens in the 8th month when the parts are finished? Because it ain't as cold. You know what you can do now? You can occupy the house. You can go be in the house when the wintertime comes. Because it's going to get cold. And you want to have a house. You want to build inside. You want to be inside the house. The house was finished in all its parts according to its specifications. He was 7 years in building it. He took 7 years to build it, and he finished it in the 8th month. 7 years. How do you say it? 7 years. 7 years. What's the 7th year? Year of Jubilee. It's called a Jubilee. But that's all a part of it. So why we did that? Because everything has a point. Everything has a property. Everything has a property, right? This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 5. Qahalath 7 and 5. Ecclesiastes 7 and 5. It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear songs of fools. He said it's better to hear the rebuke of the wise, to ka. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools. This is also vanity. Why? Surely oppression drives the wise into madness. Of course you know that. They put madness, right? But it does. But it also means that word for madness is praise, it's halal, but you're not going to do that. And a bribe corrupts the heart. Remember, bribes can be multiple things. But we're going to get there. Verse 8, here we go. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Better is the end of a thing than its beginning. When did Shalom start building it? In the second month. But then it took 7 years to build it. That's Jubilee. You know how many Jubilees that is? That's 1 Jubilee it took to build it. But he finished it in the 8th month. So I'm sure when you start something, the beginning part of it seems kind of difficult. It seems kind of hard. Man, it's like, man, this thing ain't going nowhere. But he says, better is the end of a thing than its beginning. Because the beginning part, that's the hardest part. planning it. But once you get it going, the inspector comes, and then you start to get it going, and he's like, then the ending is going to be better. And the patient in Ruach is better than the proud in Ruach. Why? Because you got to be real patient to build a house. You can't be proud to build no house. Because you got to count the cost. And if you ever build a house, it costs money. Man, it call cash flow. Matter of fact, it costs even more money now, even today. He said the materials and the things it costs to build a house cost you 20,000 times. Man, it costs a lot more money now. Depending on what type house you're trying to build. Now, if you're trying to build a 400, 300, 300 square foot house, that don't take much. A 400 square foot house don't take much. A 5,000 square foot house, he said, you're going to need a little help. Ain't no way in the world you're going to do that by yourself. You can try to build it. You can build maybe you probably can build a 1,000 foot square house by yourself. But a 5,000 square foot house, nah, that's not going to happen. You can do that with working your hand without killing yourself. You may not even be able to live in it if you try to do a 5,000 square foot house by yourself. You might kill yourself. You might fall down from the rafters. You might hit your head on the neck, right? Because you're going to try to put that big old steeple at the top, weight 6,000 pounds, you're going to knock your head in, and you're going to die, right? You might not even live in it. You're going to need help. Ain't no way you're going to lift all them stones by yourself and think you're going to do it. No, it's not going to work. And guess what it says? But the patient in Ruach is better than the proud in Ruach. Be not quick in your Ruach to become angry. Why? You can't do that. Because angry is being angry. If Yahuwah got quick angry on Yahusha one time. But he almost killed everybody. That's why he said don't get angry in your Ruach quick. He said you don't get angry. Yahuwah got angry. He almost killed us all. And then Messiah had to talk him down. Because he was going to kill everybody. He said I'm going to get rid of all y'all. Y'all making me look bad. That's the whole point. You make somebody look bad. He's like, man, y'all making me look bad. I got to get rid of y'all. That's why Yahuwah getting ready to do. Why do you think he got rid of Adam and Kuh out the garden? Them Malachim was looking at him like, you see what they doing? He said, you making me look bad. I did all this work. And then people, he said, man, y'all getting up out of here. Because they were making him look bad. Think about it. He the head of the corporation, and you come down, you doing something crazy, and you his son. That he made him image and likeness, and then you making him look bad to everybody else. So how you think he looking? How you think Yahuwah thinking? Yahuwah like, you making me look bad. You make me look evil. You make me look like I do what you do. I don't do what they do. Be not quick in your Ruach to become angry, for angry lodges in the heart of fools. Now you see why Yahuwah cast away his anger when Messiah started talking to him. He said, I ain't gonna be no fool. Let me get rid of this thing. Right? Because you won't be a fool. Say not, why were the former days better than these? He said, don't do that. The former days were better. He said, I don't know about that. You mean, we talked about the former things that the fathers did, and he said how evil they were. He's like, you want to walk in that way? And how corrupt and evil they were? They were evil. You want to walk like Shamy'ny Chdsh? You can use the ending part of Shamy'ny Chdsh, because better is the ending of his life in the beginning, because he said he did more in his death than he did when he was alive. But still, you see how evil he was? Shamy'ny Chdsh was evil. Samson was evil. Samson was walking, doing his own thing. You be thinking, he was like, man, I want to be like Shamy'ny Chdsh, strong like Samson. What do you think where his strength came from? From his hair covenant. So you think that strength that he had was Yahuwah's strength? So you got to start looking at that. Because when he got weak at the end, he was like, as long as he stayed in obedience to that little covenant that he had with his hair, he had his strength. But his strength was being used for evil stuff. But then at the end, Yahuwah took his strength and he said, okay, now I'm gonna give you your strength back a little bit. You're gonna be able to do this last thing. But all the other stuff you did, understand you were evil as I don't know what. But I forgive you, I give you a little strength back. That's what Yahuwah is. You gotta wait for your wings to come back. You gotta wait for your strength to come back. Because he gotta break you down that. Some people gotta get broke down that much, to get rid of their sin. To make them repent and ask Yahuwah for strength again. That's the only way you're going to get it back. But you're going to have to wait to get your wing. Once you sin and do all this stuff, you're going to lose your strength. And then by doing so, then he had to ask him for the strength back. Verse 9, be not quick in your ruach to become angry, for anger lodges in the bosom of heart of fools, in the lave, the yetzer. Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from Hukmah that you asked it. He said, man, it ain't nothing that was in the past. He said, ain't nothing better than this. Hukmah is good with an inheritance. It is. An advantage to those who see the sun. It's an advantage to those who see the Shema. Right? This is what I want. For the protection of Hukmah is like the protection of money. Hukmah. Why? Because it took wisdom to build that house that he had, Shamy'ny had. But also it took funds. Nobody's going to work and build your house for free. Nobody gonna pick up all them stones and them cedars and carve out no carabine. Shamy'ny didn't do that by himself. He didn't have none of those things that he had to hire people. Nobody just go out there and just start doing it themselves. That's what Hukmah do. Wisdom actually allows you to get money, and allow you to hire people, and you start to do things and help you do things that the average person can't do. But you need Hukmah. Wisdom is like the protection of money. The very same thing when we build our inner man, our inner house, and you have a protection of money to build another house. But it's protection. When Shamy'ny built the house and finished it in the 8th month, what it protected him from? The winter elements. Right? You know how it's 8th month. When you go to the 9th and 10th month, you already know what's coming. And get what it says. It says, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Why? Because when it's cold outside, why do you think Yahusha said, pray not your flight be not in winter on the Shabath day? Why is he saying this? It's cold. 8th month. The house is finished in the 8th month. You get in and it just protects you from the winter elements. And it preserves your life, because if you outside in the wintertime, your chances of dying is probably like 93, 95%, unless you're an expert at survival. Right? And you got to be out there. You got to just throw out there. Some people do, some people don't. Verse 13, consider the work of Elohim. Now you say your work versus Yahuwah work. Consider the work of Elohim, who can make straight what he has made crooked. Think about that. If Yahuwah who can make straight what he has made crooked? If Yahuwah says, I'm going to harden your heart, and I make your ways crooked, and your deeds and your evil deeds, so you think your human being going to make you back straight again? Yahuwah made you crooked, evil, extortioner, a swindler, a liar, right? He sent a lying spirit in your tongue. He made you he created the calamity, he created the storms, the earthquakes, the winds, the fires. He creates these things and makes you sin against him. If he don't withhold you from sinning against him, you're going to do it. So now you got to understand, if he made your ways crooked, he the only one that's going to make your way straight. But the verse 14 says, in the day of prosperity, be joyful. When you got a lot of things and you're prosperous, he said, be joyful. Why? Because Yahuwah gave it to you. And in the day of adversity, consider. When you start to lose things, just things start to happen, he said, you need to consider your ways and what you're doing in your deeds. Elohim has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him. Why? Because that's all a part of it. All this is a part of it. So what's the whole point of this? What's the whole point of this? This is the book of Psalms. Book of Psalms chapter 14 and verse Tahalim 14. Psalm chapter 14 verse 3. Psalm chapter 14 verse 3. They have all turned aside together. They have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. So who did that? Who makes crooked? And guess what? Have they no knowledge? All the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread? He said, y'all like eating human flesh, you Nephilim. Because he told Adam, you're going to eat bread all the days of your life. Then now you are Nephilim eating human flesh. You Nephilim, you eat up my people like eating human flesh, eating flesh. Well, that's why he's comparing you. You a Nephilim. Nephilim are here today. You just don't know it. There are Nephilim here on earth. There are giants in the earth. The children of the giants. How you say? The Nephilim are here. They're on earth today. You may not believe it. We talking about naturally and ruach, right? But it says, have they no knowledge? All the evildoers, so you're an evildoer on earth right now. Yahuwah see you, you're a Nephilim. You know, like the people from the flood before he destroyed the world. Nephilim were eating sentient animals, beasts, reptiles. Then they started eating human flesh. You're a Nephilim. Who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the name of Yahuwah. So if you don't call upon the name of Yahuwah and you evil, you're a Nephilim. And guess what? They are in great terror, for Elohim is with the generations of the righteous. He said, Yahuwah is with the righteous, right? You would, guess what it says? You would shame the plans of the poor. Because you know, when poor people try to make plans, you know what Nephilim do? They got so many things, they got so many fees and taxes and everything. They got so many different things. They can take all your poor money to where you can't get nothing. They swallow you up like man eat bread. And you can't do nothing. You helpless. You be trying, man, I'm finna get this thing 40% gone. You be like, hold up. I thought I was doing something. Nope. 40% gone. 10%, 25%. Pastor gift, right? Congregation gift, right? All this junk, right? 20%. That's 60% of your income gone already. You swallow up my people like you eat bread. They gone. They ain't got nothing. And you be like, what kind of world is this? And you know the sad part about it? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You may think people care. They don't care. They don't. You shame the plans of the poor, but Yahuwah is his refuge. He say, just understand, even though you're doing that, Yahuwah is my refuge. He said, you done did that. He said, if it happened to you, just understand Yahuwah is your refuge. Because you're supposed to have things, because wisdom is like the protection of money. But they took your money. You ain't got nothing. But guess what? Guess what you still got, though? You still got Hakma, wisdom. And it's like protection of money. Because they swallowed you up. And they took all your funds. Verse 7 says, Oh, that salvation for Yahusha would come out of Zion, when Yahuwah restores the fortunes of his people. And then what Leah said, Yahuwah has given me good fortune. I'm going to call his name what? God. Call his name God. What do you mean restore your fortunes? Restore the fortunes back. Let Yaakov rejoice. Let Yahusha be glad. And Yahuwah has made me happy. I'm going to call his name Asher. Even though they done took all my funds, 60% of my income, I can't do nothing. But at the same time, Yahuwah is my refuge, though. They say they tax your head in. You ain't got nothing. Then you get 10% to a bunch of criminal extortioners for a building you ain't got nothing to dwell inside. Right? But all that's a part of it. All that's a part of it. But what's the point? Going to Psalm chapter 33. Tahalim, Psalm chapter 33 and verse 8. Psalm Tahalim 33 and 8. Let all the earth fear Yahuwah. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. He commanded and it stood firm. Everything he said, it came and it stood firm. Yahuwah brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. The Goyim got a lot of counsels today. Matter of fact, they're making a lot of plans. Yahuwah brings the counsel of the nations to nothing, and he frustrates the plans of the peoples. Guess what? The counsel of Yahuwah stands forever. So if your plan's getting frustrated, Yahuwah doing it. Because this probably is a reason. Either he trying to hold you back from doing something and stop you, he put you on a timeline that's perfect, or he's just doing it because you're just evil. So you got to be able to discern what's the reason why. Because sometimes you be trying to hurry and do a plan, and then guess what? Yahuwah already had, you get sets down the timeline. I got to slow you down. I got to restricting you down to stop you from the plan, because if I do it, you do it now, then the plan ain't going to be fulfilled. And then it ain't gonna be on the timeline. It's gonna be perfect, because anything I do has to be perfect. Yahuwah likes things perfectly aligned, and he needs it right on time. Right? The counsel of Yahuwah stands forever, and the plans of the heart. He said, the counsel of Yahuwah, verse 11, stands forever. The plans of his heart to all generations. That's what he does. It's a plan that he has for all generations, because in the nation whose Elohim is Yahuwah, the people whom he has chosen as his heritage. Who he think he chose? Who got Yahuwah his name on them? That's who you are, his heritage. You know what happens when you his heritage? Verse 13, Yahuwah looks down from Shamy'n, and he sees all the children of Adam. From whence he sits enthroned, he looks out on all the inhabitants of the Yarats, and he who fashions the hearts of them all, and observes all their deeds. That's what he's doing. Yahuwah see your deeds and everything you do, and he knows the hearts of man, and he's just observing. He's looking at all the children of Adam, the good and the evil, and he's looking at the earth, which means he's way bigger than the earth, people. How you say? He way bigger than the little earth, the little 3,600 mile sun that's up there, the 3,600 mile moon that they say. He way bigger than the center of the earth. He looked down on the earth. He watching everybody sitting on his throne. He real big, man. He huge, humongous, and he see all the Nephilim on earth, right? Verse 16: the king is not saved by his great army, right? So Malak. So you got your army, you got your security guards, you got your security, you know, your security guard, you got your private army, your private security firms and all that, your spies and all that stuff. He said, the king is not saved by his army. You got your little army, you got your army websites, right? All that. You're not going to be saved. The king is not saved by his army. A warrior is not delivered by his strength, by his great strength. Now you talk about his strength. By your great strength, because your strength, remember I said your strength is different from Yahuwah's strength. Yahuwah's strength only can come to you when your strength is gone. Because then you'll be like, this ain't my strength. Where this strength came from? Because then you're going to give Yahuwah the credit for his strength that he give you. Guess what? He said the war horse is a false hope for salvation. So you think your horses, you got horsepower. People got that horsepower now in these cars, right? They got tanks, they got bulletproof, Uzi proof, right? Say AR-15 proof. He said, the war horse is a false hope for salvation. So you think they're going to save you, please don't be thinking that. All the stuff that we, the things that we hope in. Stealth bomber, AR, he said the new stealth jets, stealth 15, invisible jet, right? Propulsion, Mach 10, plasma engine, portal jumping machines, right? Intersection portal jumping machines they got. Dark matter, going through portals and gateways, open up doorways with 32-mile circles on the ground. That stuff ain't gonna save you. Yeah, people think, Yahuwah, remember, Yahuwah's above on his throne looking down on the earth right now. He see all this stuff in the earth. I see y'all buried that tunnel under there with the proton, electron, neuron. He said, I already see all that. He can see everything. I know you got more than one. I know you got about 5 of them. Yahuwah see all that stuff. People say, I don't know. Yahuwah know everything. So it don't matter where you got it hid at, but I got it hid in the innermost parts of my house with my gold and my silver and my cherubim. I got it hid in my vault, my ledger. Yahuwah know what's in your ledger. And you know what he says? The war horse and a false hope for salvation. He says, and by his great might, it cannot rescue. So it don't matter. Get what it says. This is what matters. Verse 18, behold, the eyes of Yahuwah is on those who fear him. Understand something. When you have that as your hope, you do not fear Yahuwah. If that's your salvation, if that's what you believe that's gonna save you, then you don't really got salvation. You ain't really got it. I know you think you got it, but you don't. Behold, the eyes of Yahuwah are on those who fear him, on those who hope in his steadfast ahab love. Why? Because we should be dead. We shouldn't be here. We should have been gone a long time ago, back in early 1999, 2000. We should not be here. We should have been vaporized by the electromagnetic pulse that was going to come and hit us and blow us up. And the comet was about 3 times the size of the sun. It should have destroyed us. You have no idea. You should not be here. That's Yahuwah's steadfast love. Yahuwah said, almost. He said, I almost got you. It was almost the end of y'all. You lucky? No, you ain't lucky. Behold, the eyes of Yahuwah on those who fear him, on those who hope in his steadfast love. That's what you hope in, aha. That he may deliver their soul from death, right? Because you're going to die. Deliver you from the second death. Because when it's time to go to court and the judgment set up for all your evil deeds, because Yahuwah looking at all the deeds of the children of Adam. And he's going to look at what you did, whether on earth, under the earth, or in the Rakia, because people are going to be going to Rakia or under the earth. He's going to be watching you too. He can see you underground in your underground cities and your underground caverns with your Mach 10 trains and your things that connect with your underground bases and everything. He can see your tunnels and your food storages, and he can see all that stuff. Even on the center of the earth and all the other creatures here on earth, right? And even in this Rakia, he can see that too. There's no way people act like they can't hide. You got Cherubim, Seraphim, you got Mikal, Uguriel, Garbar, Raphael. He got all types of things out here. And he protects those, right? Verse 18, behold, the eyes of Yahuwah is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his steadfast love, that he may deliver their soul from death and keep them alive in famine. Because that's why I said, if you think, right, you're going to be like Blade, Blade Runner, what's that movie? Right? You got all these different movies where it's like famine and people be running around killing each other, eating each other, doing all this stuff, and eat car and horsepower, chasing each other. Right, that stuff don't mean anything. When the famine comes, when Yusuf had all the food, when the famine comes, that's when you're gonna understand to keep you alive in the famine, because it's not gonna be a famine of food and water and all these things. It's gonna be a famine of hearing you to the bar. There's gonna be plenty of that. It's gonna be a famine of hearing to the bar. They can grow food now inside a warehouse. They can grow food out of rocks. They can print food with proteins. Man, there are all types of ways they can feed you. And they can feed you plant matter. They can make reverse osmosis and bring water out of nowhere. Just pull it out of the air. Man, you say it's gonna be a famine of food and water. No. They grow wheat. All types of ways now. Put the proper elixir in there and you be gobbling it up, right? There's a lot of advances in the world now. Please, it's going to be a famine of hearing to the bar. Verse 20, our soul waits for Yahuwah. He is our help and our shield. For our heart is glad in him, because we trust in his Kudash name. That's why he says, why we just read in Proverbs 31, he said, the heart of her husband does safely trust in her. She's like the merchant, and she does what? She brings her food from afar. Since there are so many things that's in the world today, because you bring your food from afar, you ain't gonna have no famine. And how do we know that? Let your steadfast ahab, O Yahuwah, be upon us. That's how you know this Isha has a love for you. Even as we hope in you. Right, this is all a part of it. So why is this important? Because this is a whole point. It's a whole point. This is the whole point. This is the whole point. This is Proverbs chapter 19. We go to this other part. Proverbs chapter 19 and verse Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Whosoever is generous to the poor lends to Yahuwah. Huh? Who you lending to? You ain't lending. So if somebody give you a loan or give you some money and lend it to you, who you think they lending it to? They lending it to Yahuwah. It ain't yours. You be like, who you lending it to? You lending it to Yahuwah because I said, Yahuwah's like, you lend that to me. And then what you think gonna happen if you swindle that person when you lend them something? He said the lender's you in trouble too. What you think gonna happen to you? They did what? So you be saying, I'm good. No, you're not. He said, you in trouble too. Whosoever generous to the poor lends to Yahuwah. That's the whole point. Because that's what people say. We're generous to the poor. We're giving you money based upon your income to debt ratio. And then we're going to give you your money. And we're lending to you. And guess what? We're allowing you to prosper in this place where we swallow up people like the poor, like we eat bread. It says, and he will repay him for his deed. So you think you swindle people by lending them, the poor, and you swindle them, you think you're going to get, what do you think your payment going to be on the day of judgment? It's going to be way higher than that payment that person had to pay, that poor person had to pay, that pay you with interest on it. It's going to be it's going to be a way higher repayment. He say eternal judgment. Whosoever is generous to the poor lends to the Yahuwah, and he will repay him for his deed. That's the whole point. He said, whether good or evil, believer in Yahuwah or not. It says, discipline your son or daughter, for there is hope. you know why I said there is hope? Because some of their hope is in their chariots, their horses. It's in the things that they own. You know how they be riding, they think their strength gonna get them in. Think that their natural man gonna get in. They think all this stuff, you know how he said you get those thoughts in your mind. He said, discipline your son or daughter, for there is hope. Do not set your heart on putting him to death. Now you see why Yahuwah lovers of souls, right? Yahuwah ain't thinking about putting nobody to death. He's trying to save you from the pit. That's why we read in Job 33. And from the sword. Because some people want to put them to death. Now, we had a law in the Torah that said what? If you have a rebellious and stubborn son, and he said you bring him to the elders and the people of the city, and they stone him with stones that he died. Kill him. Right? That's what you want to do, right? Amen. He says, discipline your son, for there is hope. There's still hope while you're alive. Why are you going to stone him to death and kill him? Now, this is a new covenant, right? Do not set your heart on putting him to death. He said, don't even put it in your heart and mind. Don't even do it. Verse 19, you know why you're going to do it? A man of great wrath will pay the penalty. So if you do it, it don't got to just be your son, it can be your daughter. It can be Aydah. It can be your mother, your father. It could be your brother, sister. It could be an animal. Right? It ain't just eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand. It could be a child that ain't been born inside of a mother's womb that you end up doing something to. Matter of fact, it could be a son that you killed that's supposed to have a child like 10, 15, 20 years from now that's supposed to be able to help somebody 20 years from now. And then now you done broke off their help because they were supposed to be born to help that person that's going to be 50 years old. So then now you done messed that up. Now you messed up that timeline. So therefore I got to pay you for that and for the timeline you messed up for 50 years later when that child's supposed to grow up and take care of that person that ain't gonna have no care because that child ain't never been born. So you got to pay the penalty for that. That's an even abortion. Be not, I slept with this person. I don't want to be with him. I don't want that child. I ain't want it in my life. I'm going to kill it. It ain't my responsibility. Discipline your son or daughter, for there is hope. Do not set your heart on putting him or her to death. Don't do it. It's a lot deeper than what people think. You're going to get paid for that. You know why you did it? a man or woman of great wrath will pay the penalty. That's the only reason you killed that child in your stomach. And you went to the abortion clinic. But you're going to pay the penalty. Because Yahuwah watching everybody's deeds. But here we go. For if you deliver him, you will only have to do it again, right? Listen to the advice and accept instruction. Why? Because if you don't. Because if you think about it, when a person commits adultery one time, what's going to stop them from doing it again? They're going to keep doing it over and over again because they ain't got no responsibility. And you know what happens after that? You're going to get paid for every last one. You're going to get paid. He said, I ain't never got paid. I never had a job in my life. He said, you're going to get paid for this one. Ain't going to be nothing but debt. And the people say, what? Why is this happening to me? Even if you change your life, I know people say, I got immersed in Yahusha, put his name, and I got immersed into his name. I done put away my old life, I put on new. But you did that stuff in your past, you're going to get paid for it. The payment is still there. He said, Yahusha bore my sin and put it all away. He brought you back to value because you lost all your value. He canceled all your debt. But the payment is still there, though. You still got to pay. And it says, listen to the advice and accept the instructions that you may gain hukmah in the future. That's why wisdom is like the protection of money. Man, as a matter of fact, it's like the protection of payments that you don't even need. Unsanctioned, you don't even need it. Why you want that payment? And then you ain't got no money to pay the payment for your deeds. You got no protection in that area. So protection goes both ways. Hukmah inside, you got money on the outside to protect you from the bad decisions you make on the outside, but also wisdom on the inside to protect you from the bad decisions you make on the inside. That's all about it. Verse 21. Many are the plans in the mind of Adam. It's like we got many plans. Like anything we want to do, like you make a plans, right? Second month you start building the house, and then 8th month you finish it, but then you start to see the plans you got to make during the times when you have dead time and all the things you got to do. Many are the plans in the mind of Adam, but it is the purpose of Yahuwah that will stand. It's the purpose of Yahuwah that's going to stand. Like going to Genesis, Bereshith, Genesis chapter 14 and verse 1. Genesis chapter 14 verse 1. Actually going to 13 and 1. Actually go to Genesis, Bereshith 12 and 1. There's a reason for this. Bereshith 12 and 1. Now Yahuwah said to Abram, go from your country and from your kindred, and from your father's house to the land I will show you. So he said, do what I tell you, Abraham. That's all you got to do. To the land that I'm going to show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I'm going to prosper you there. And I will barak you, and will make your name great, so that you will be a blessing, a barak. That's what he's telling you. Go do what I say, and then you're going to be a barak there. And I will barak those who barak you, and him who dishonors you, I will curse. Which means that the people who talk to you, they're going to be very careful what they say, good or bad, good or evil. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be barak. He says, so in you, in your life, in your household, all the families of the earth going to be barak. How can you, one human being, barak all the families of the earth and allow them to be barak? So he said families. How you going to barak all the families of the earth? Right? He said, how you going to do that? All right, going to Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28 and verse 13. Matthew chapter 28 verse 13. And he said, tell people, his disciples, and he said, actually go to Matthew 28 and 12. And when they had assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers. Man, he said, he want that money, right? You know, Yahusha, you know, his disciples stole away the body, you know, made up a lie, right? A conspiracy, that's what it is. That's what conspiracies are. You know, we're not going to release the files, or we're not going to release this. We're going to say this, and this happened. And here goes some money. You know, wisdom like protection of money, because this is a different type of wisdom right here. And the money protects them from being, how you say, implicated in the actual murder of Yahusha Mashiach. That's literally what they did. Because wisdom can wisdom can guide you to, and money can protect you, but it can also be done in an evil way too. And he said, tell people, right? So he said, lie for us. You know what Jael did? You think these soldiers gonna do that? No, they gonna do what Jael did. Lie for us? No. And said, tell the people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep, right? Go ahead and keep telling them lies. Like Saul told his people to go tell David. Yeah, try to get him to go get murdered by the Philistines. Yeah, you know. Because he knew he loved, McCall loved, he wanted to set him up, right? Go ahead and go tell them lies to David. That's what he said. They stole him while I was asleep. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble, right? So he's like, even if it goes to another higher, if you go to the governor's ears, he said, we'll keep you safe and keep you out of trouble. We'll say, yeah, you know, everything they said was true. Notice how the lies go up the chain. The lies went all the way up the chain, though. Just like when David killed Uriah, went all the way up the chain. The same stuff. They do it today. Same thing. The world has not changed. People think the world changed on me. Verse 15. So they took the money and did as they were directed, which means they followed their instructions, which means they're going to receive their payment later. Do you want that payment on your life? Even though they got the money, boy, it's going to look good. Woo, going to be riding Lamborghinis, traveling south to Spain, right? Right, in Morocco, right, on the beach, in Turks and Caicos, right, in Jamaica, or any other places, right? But you gonna get your payment. You can't hide, right? So they took the money and did as they were directed, to, you know, bribes. And this story has been spread among the Yahudim to this day, right? To this very day. You know, some people believe this. It's in books. You know, some people believe this. It's all a sham. They took away the body and it was all a magic trick. You know how they had the magic tricks where they had somebody look they did and they come and take the body out behind the curtain and they move it. You know, they move it, they put a curtain up or they put a stone up and they had somebody take the body out, you know, stuff like that. It was a magic trick. You know how they go in like magic. They do. Verse 15. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain to which Yahusha had directed them. So that's another instructions. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted, right? So everybody believed that stuff. So people been thinking like, oh, they knew Arbri Lashon, they had what name, they had names, Hebrew, Abri names, they had the feast days, the Cogs, the Muavs, the feasts. They had all that stuff. They knew it, they did it from generation to generation. But some doubted. So it's still, please don't be thinking people believe that stuff. And Yahusha came and said to them, all authority in Shamayim and earth has been given to me. He said, all the authority. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, immersing them in the name of Yahusha Mashiach. Right? They put the Father, the Son, and the Gudash Ruach. Right? Well, you know, Yahuwah is a God, but they put it all in here. Why do you put that in there? Because just like any other thing, just like you go to Bereshit and you see the Garden of Eden, and they got the 4 rivers going out, and it's going to where? You'd be like, why they put that in there? Wasn't the Garden of Eden made before Cush even was born, and before Ham was even born? Right. So why would he put that in there? And Ham was born later, way later. And Nuach's son, way longer. So why would he put that in there? It's a lot of stuff, right? But anyway, we're not going to get into that. Teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. That's all he was telling them. Anything I commanded you, you teach them. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. Why? So how are all the families of the earth going to be barak? By this. That's how you're going to barak all the families of the earth. That's how you're going to do it. How are you going to do that? Right, you're going to the book of Acts. This is how. Book of Acts, chapter 3. I think it's chapter 3. Acts chapter 3. Actually, go to Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10 and verse 42. Acts chapter 10, verse 42. And he commanded us to Qahalath, to lecture or preach to the people and to testify that he is the one appointed by Elohim to be judge of the living and the dead. He's talking about good and evil. He the judge. So he gonna judge people in the spirit world and in the living world. You know, this realm and the other world. To him, all the Nabi'im bear witness that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. So how you gonna barak all the nations, all the families of the earth by this? That's how you barak all the families of the earth. Verse 44, while Kav was still saying these things, the Kudash Ruach fell on all who heard the debar. By all who were shaking on the ground, jumping up in the air. And the believers from among the circumcised who had come with Kav were amazed. Who were circumcised? Huh? And the believers among the circumcised who had come with Kav were amazed. Circumcised? What do you mean circumcised? Yeah, circumcised in their flesh. You talking about the Yahudim of the flesh? They were circumcised. You know how they talking about you falling, not even knowing and understanding. And Kav were amazed because the gift of the Kudash Ruach were poured out on even the Goim. So you're looking at a circumcised bunch of people, Kav was circumcised, and a bunch of other circumcised people with Kav, looking at the Goim, believing on his name. And then what happened? For they were hearing them speaking in the tongues and extolling Elohim. Then Kav declared, can anyone withhold water for immersing these people? Immersing these people where? Who have received the Kudash Ruach just as we have. They received the Kudash Ruach like we did. Immersed into what? And he commanded them to be immersed in the name of Yahusha Mashiach. Then they asked him to remain for some days. They asked him to rule over them and tell them what to do and run their life, right? Take their money, and do all these things. That's what they told them to do. Be our God and our idol. Let us make songs about you and do all this stuff. That ain't what they told them to do. They were like, stay with us, please. Right? That ain't what they asked them to do. Because once you start doing that, people gonna get upset. That ain't what he asked them to do. I know people think, oh yeah, that's what no, that ain't what they asked them to do. Because nobody wants you to do that. Because remember, Caesar and all these people were still in power. And they were already oppressing people and taking all their money and doing all this stuff and swallowing the poor and the needy. They were already doing that. Nobody wanted that no more. Nobody wanted that. Right? And that's the whole point. Right, so this is the book of Acts chapter, stay in this verse. Going to Acts chapter 16 real quick. We're going to get out of here. It's 4:40. Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16, verse 29. Acts chapter 16, verse 29. It says, and the jailer called for lights and rushed in and trembling with fear and fell down before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe in the Master Yahusha, and you will be saved, and you and your household. That's how all the families of the earth going to be Barak. That's how all the earth, that's how all the families in you going to be Barak. He said, go here, Abraham, get out of your father's house, go to this land, I'm going to tell you. And then when you're there, all the families of the earth going to be Barak through you. And they spoke the word of Yahuwah to him and to all who are in his house. All the families of the earth will be Barak through you. What tribe was Shaul from? The tribe of Benjamin? Of the seed of Abraham. He claimed Abraham? The tribe of Benjamin, the seed of Abraham, of Yasharal, of the 12 tribes. All the nations through you, Abraham, are going to be Barak. All the families. And he took them that same hour of the night and washed their wounds, and he was immersed at once, he and all his family. He was immersed in the name of Abraham. He was immersed in the name of Yitzhak. He was immersed in the name of Yasharal and Yaakov and the tribe of God. You know, God. He was immersed in the name of God. God. Right? No. He was immersed in the name, right, of the sanctuary. You know, the name of the sanctuary. You know, when all people were one language and one speech. And they all spoke the language of the sanctuary. What's the language of the sanctuary? Right? What do you mean the language of the sanctuary? He said, and he was immersed at once, he and all his family. Then he brought them up into the house and set food before them. Right? He was immersed in the name of the sanctuary. What's the language of the sanctuary? You had a bunch of circumcised coughs and with circumcised beings saying the Ruach Kadash fell upon them, and we're circumcised. We are Yasharal and Yehuda, according to the flesh. But then you got these Goyim people getting in the Ruach Kadash. But then what happened after that? This is the language of the sanctuary. What do you mean? This is the book of Acts. Because some people like the new. Right, so he said, I like old store. I like new store. I like that too. Me too. This is Acts chapter 22, verse 1. Acts chapter 22, verse 1. It says, brothers and fathers. Oh, why you say that? Because Abraham and you, all the family of the earth, going to be Barak. Who is Abraham? They call Abraham what? The father. Our father Abraham. We've never been into bondage to any man. Not today. You can't say that today. You're in bondage to everybody. Right? He says, hear the defense that I now make before you. So he's talking to brothers and fathers now. And when they heard that he was addressing them in Abri Lashon, the Hebrew language. Right? So that's because that's the language of the sanctuary. A little different now. They became even more quiet. Meek and quiet. You know when you're meek and quiet. And he said, I am a Yahudi, born in Tarsus, in Sicilia. So he was Yahudi. What language he spoke? He just speaking it right here. Abri Lashon. Brought up in this city, educated at the feet of Gamaliel, which means I don't walk around Abri Lashon, immersing them in the name that's not of the language of the sanctuary. So you telling me when Kav, Peter, Bartholomew, Philip, they were immersing all the circumcised Yahudim who believed on his name, they were immersing him in a name that was not of the sanctuary? They were immersing them in the name that was not the language of the Abri Lashon. What language did they speak? They would be immersing the circumcised people who are naturally of the tribe of Yasharal and Yehuda. They would immerse them in the name of the sanctuary, the language of Abri Lashon, because that is their language and native tongue. When they got immersed, those Yahudim who believed on him and his name, because that would be the language that they were immersed in. That's why when people, you get immersed into that language, then you start to understand what the immersion is. When you immerse in another language, then it becomes corrupted. And get what it says, and I am a Yahudi, born of Tarsus of Sicilia, but brought up in this city, educated at the feet of Gamaliel, according to the strict manner of the law of our fathers. Being zealous, what fathers? Being zealous for Elohim, for all of you, for as all of you are this day. Right? We're going back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now, Yahuwah said to Abram, go out of your country and to your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will barak you and make your name great, so that you will be a barak. And I will barak those who barak you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be barak, blessed. So Abraham went as Yahuwah had told him, and Lut went with him. So he left. And it says, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed Haran. And Abraham took Sarai his wife, and Lut his brother's sons, and all their possessions, and they that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. That's a place where Yahuwah told them to go. And when they came to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the Oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land, right? So all this takes place. So Abraham left. He took his possessions and the things that he had, and the people he had, and they went to travel to the land of Canaan. Going to verse 10. Now there was a famine in the land, and we just talked about Yahuwah going to protect you in a famine. Why? Because when the famine comes, we just read it in the book of Psalms. He said, when the famine comes, he said, Yahuwah is my refuge and my fortress. Yahuwah is in whom I trust. He said, who protects us from the famine. So who you protect? He said, who your trust is. There's a famine. It's time to be afraid. Right? You know, ain't no time to be afraid. Remember, they're traveling. They ain't got no, they ain't got no compound with a whole bunch of stuff on it, with a bunch of storage and everything like that. These people are moving. Abraham is moving around. Now there was a famine in the land, which means there was a famine in the land. So Abraham went down in Mizraim and sojourned there. He went into a city. You know, a city? Because there was a famine. And he went into a city. For the famine was severe in the land. So he went into a city. Because what do cities have? Cities tend to store things inside of the city. And you know when you store things inside of a city, and then what you have in the city, you have a store. And you know what happens after that? When he was about to enter Mizraim, he said to Sarai, his wife, I know that you are a beautiful woman in appearance. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Man, he said, man, you look so good. They have to say, well, that gotta be your wife, man. Ain't no way in the world you're gonna have a beautiful woman walking with you like that, and she ain't gonna be your wife. Unless you gay. You know how people say. But it says, then they will kill me, right? They're gonna kill me. Because back in the day, Mizraim wasn't overrun with a bunch of people that sleeping with men. They were like, they see a woman, they like, that's mine. And guess what? But they will let you live. Which means they're going to rob me. They're going to take everything I got and they're going to kill me. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, that my wife may be spared for your sake. Did they have any children during this time? Nope. They had no children. They were just traveling. They left with all their possessions. They didn't have no children. You know why Yahuwah ain't giving no children? Because Yahuwah is smarter than us. There's a reason why Yahuwah ain't giving no children. When Abraham entered the Mizraim, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake, he dealt well with Abraham. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, and male servants, and female donkeys, and camels. Which means Pharaoh broke him off some money. You know how he said it? He made his wealth increase. Because there's no point in Yahuwah giving you stuff when your wealth ain't increasing. What's the point of me giving? They're going to swallow you up like bread. They're going to eat you alive. Why would I give you stuff, increase your family, when you ain't got no money? Because wisdom like the protection of money. Yahuwah had to find a way to get them paid. Because there's no point in me giving you stuff. How you going to barak all the families of the earth and you ain't got nothing? It makes no sense. So Yahuwah got to take you through things to increase your funds. There's no point in him giving you stuff. Wisdom like protection of money. You need that. But Yahuwah afflicted Pharaoh in his house. And then Yahuwah, he heisted them. Because remember, he thought he ain't no fear of Yahuwah. So Yahuwah said, I'm going to heist them. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use your wife as bait. And then they're going to take your wife, and then they're going to break you off some money. Because y'all ain't got nothing. Y'all broke. Right? So then, after he take your wife, then I'm going to plague Pharaoh at the same time after he done broke you off some money. So you already got your paid, right? But now I'm going to plague his house. But Yahuwah afflicted Pharaoh in his house with a great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So now I'm going to plague him. So Pharaoh called Abraham and said, what is this that you have done to me? And how many times we have read this in the Torah? You say, what is this that you have done? Because people don't like that stuff, man. I know people say, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Pharaoh was wicked, evil, right? But he said, man, what are you doing to me, right? Nobody wants that plagues on their life. I don't care who they are. You could be evil. You could be a mobster. You could have 1,000 guns locked away. You know, murdered 50 people, man. When somebody start messing with your life and start plaguing you, you like, what do I have to do for this to stop? He said, what have you done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why? Because back in the day, people had a little bit more fear than today. They had a lot more fear today. He said, you see a woman walking with a man, it's better not. He said, don't even play with it. He's just my friend. I don't believe you. Right? You know what I say? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Right? Don't even believe it. I know it sounds funny, but don't even believe it. You're like, that's my friend. No, it ain't. I don't believe it. No, I don't believe none of that junk you say. You're going to have to prove to me. That's the whole point. Or you're going to get the punishment of it because it's a payment for it. Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? So I took her for my wife. Because that's what happened. You got to take her. Back in the day, it was different. It wasn't this, we're going to go on 50 dates. 20 dates, right? Restaurants and dinners and all that. No, back in the day, it was like, take you. It wasn't none of this stuff today. Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. So who already unpaid Abraham, right? And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him and sent him away with his wife that he had. So all that was done. But guess what happened? Now, so Abraham went up from Mizraim, he and his wife, and all he had, and Lut with him in the Negeb. Now, Abraham was very rich. See, what's the point in you having things and increasing your family? They didn't have no children during this time. What's the point of you getting things and having children when you ain't got nothing? It makes absolutely no sense. Why are you going to have children? Why would Yahuwah give you a child? If you really are going to be a Barak to all people and all nations, why would Yahuwah give you a child? Why would he give you these things? Now when Abram went up from Mizraim, he and his wife and all he had, and Lut with him in the Negev. Now Abraham was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he journeyed from Negev as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Aydah. Right, so all that took place. And the place where he had made the altar at the first, and there Abraham called on the name of Yahuwah. Right, so he made an altar and called on the name of Yahuwah. And Lut, who went with him, Abraham, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. Why? Because everybody rich. They got money. For their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. Why? There's too much stuff. You can't have all your possessions in one spot. You know what? Back in the day, when you had your possessions in one spot, you know what happened? Satan starts sniffing your stuff out. He do. Satan starts sniffing you out. I know people say, no, yeah, Satan ain't coming. Yeah, he coming. You get it? Understand. You're going to see Satan right here. I'm going to show you Satan. And there was strife between the herdsmen and Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. There goes Satan. Mr. Satan. There goes Satan. I tell you, Satan coming. I know you think, oh yeah, I got stuff and all this stuff. I'm increasing the land. All my things coming. But here come that strife, the works of the flesh. And you know the Ruach. That's Satan. That's him. And guess what happens? And at that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. You think they ain't hear none of that strife y'all had? You think they ain't hear none of the strife that they had? They were listening. They were eavesdropping. They heard all your strife and your quarreling and your fighting. They saw all that continual strife that's in your bones and your marrow and your joints. That's why Yahuwah sent us the bar. Quick and powerful, sharper than a two-edged sword, discerner of the intents of the heart, cutting all the way to the joint and the marrow, because it's continual strife inside of you. Then Abraham said to Lut, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen, because you don't want that contention. If we have no contention, because you get contention, Satan sniffs you out. They love that energy. Satan love them demons of Shadim, the reptile. These reptilians, they love that energy. They love it. It gives them strength. And my herdsmen and my kinsmen. Yeah, I know. And it says, is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Right, because during this time, they ain't have Yahusha Mashiach. They want no reconciliation from strife and all that stuff and trying to work things out with your brother and all that. Back in the day, it was, if you know your brother has something against you, go reconcile. It wasn't none of that back in the day. And people weren't doing that. And people was like, man, you got to go this way, we got to go that way. That's the only way you get rid of Satan. Go that way, go this way. Everybody fight. And it says, separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you take the right hand, I will go to the left. He said, I'm going to go to the left, you go to the right. You go to the left, right, I go to the left. I'm just going to go opposite of you. Guess what? And Lut lifted up his eyes and saw Yarden Valley and was well watered everywhere like the garden of Eden, the garden of Yahuwah, like the land of Mizraim in the direction of Zoar. So you see, Mizraim had was green. Right? They were green. These areas that they were living in, there's no point. It'd be a famine land. You go to another desert land. No, they went to another place that's full of green herb. It was green everywhere. They were growing cucumber, melon, watermelons, right? Mizraim, boy, this place was growing all types of stuff. What's the point? Mizraim had the tropical environment. They had everything growing there. Seasonal changes, man, everything was growing. That's how you know these people places named Mizraim. They say, ain't no Mizraim. Mizraim got stuff growing. Sodom and Gomorrah had that thing. That place was, It says it was well watered everywhere like the Garden of Eden, like the land of Mizraim in the direction of Zoar. This was before Yahuwah destroyed. This was before Yahuwah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Luke chose himself the Yarden Valley because it was well watered. It had water. And Luke journeyed east. Right? It says, thus they separated from each other, and Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, while Lut settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom, because it had some water, man. But that thing was beautiful. Now the men of Sodom were very wicked and great sinners against Yahuwah. Right, so that's all a part of it. Right, so you go there and you go into skipping over. You're gonna get out of here. Skipping over to skipping over to verse 8. 14:8. Genesis 14:8. Then the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the Zoar, went out, and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim, and killed Lumeria, and king of Elam, and Tidal of king Goim, and Amraphel, the king of Shinar, and Eriach, the Eleazar, the 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen and pits, and the king of Sodom fled. King of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell into them, and the rest fled into the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all provisions, and went their way. They also took Lut, the son of Abraham's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. That's what happens. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, the Abri. What do you mean? Because that's the language they spoke. He said, all nations, remember he said, in you, all nations of the earth going to be Barak. What language did Shaul speak when he came into there? He spoke in the Abri, Hebrew tongue. How you going to be Barak? They spoke in the Abri tongue. Shaul immersed that man in the Abri tongue. When he said, you and your household gonna be saved. The son of Abram, who was dwelling in Sodom and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Abri, who was living by the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol and the land of Aner. These were allies of Abraham. They were allies. They were like the Goim joining together to what? They were like the Goim believing on his name and getting the Ruach Kadosh. They were joined together as one with him. Abraham was an Abri, a Hebrew. He spoke Abri Lashon. And when Abraham heard that his kinsmen had been taken captive, he led forth and his trained men born in his house, 318 of them. 318 of them. Well, equal to 8 plus 1 is 9. Equals to 12. Wasn't that the same thing Shalom had when he finished? Wasn't that the same thing? And he went in pursuit as far as Dan, and he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them and pursued them to Habah, north of Damascus. And he brought back all their possessions, and also brought back his kinsman Lut. He saved him. He saved him. He saved him. Because in you, all the families of the earth are going to be Barak. He saved him. With his possessions and the women and the people. He saved him and his whole household. And then what happened when Shaul immersed that man? They heard the bar of Yahuwah, and their whole household and all who heard it was saved. He saved them, immersing them in Yahusha's name, because Yahusha's name means Yah's salvation. He saved him. That's what it means. That's what it means. All right, so skipping over. to chapter, skipping over to, let's go to Bereshit chapter 15. Skipping over, let's go to, yes, I'll say let's go ahead. Verse 13. 14:13. And the one who has, actually going to verse 17. After his return from the defeat of Lumeria and the kings who were with him, the king of Solomon went out to meet him at the valley of Shabath. And the king valley, and Melech Sadiq, king of Shalem, brought the bread and the wine. He was a priest of the Most High, Elohim. And he baraked him and said, Barak be Abraham by the Most High, possessor of Shamy'ny in earth, and Barak be the Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abraham, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand, my yard, to Yahuwah, the Most High, possessor of Shamy'ny in earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you say, I have made Abraham rich. What did the people do after he saved them and told them the word of Yahuwah with Kaf? What did they do? What did they give them? What did they give Paul and Silas after they immersed them and cleaned their wounds up? What did they want to offer Kaf when they, the circumcised men, immersed those goyim? Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. Why would you get immersed into Yahusha and be saved and be given to somebody as a slave, to a human being? Abraham saved all those people from him. Why would you get immersed in Yahusha's name and be given right back into the same slavery that you were rescued from? That's even sin, but also into slavery and being taken captive by other people. Why would you give yourself back to them? Them people were immersed in Yahusha's name. He said they went on their way. It wasn't none of this stuff that you see today. Give me the person and take the goods for yourself. They only want your soul because they know that if they get the people, they want them slaves back. But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my yard to the Most High Yahuwah, possessor of Shamy'ny in earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal strap, if anything that is yours, lest you say in your heart, you made Abraham rich. Because you see how Abraham got rich. Why would Yahuwah give you things and increase your family when you ain't got no riches? Why would he increase you? You need money. But then he said, take the good. He's like, man, I don't want you to make me rich, because if you make me rich, then it's not going to feel the same. It's the same thing when they told the disciples, the soldiers, say they stole away the body. And if you get up to the government, we'll protect you. They're going to say, we made you rich. We made you, look how we broke you off. What you going around trying to tell the truth now? We made you rich. Now, what you trying to tell the truth now? You going to try to tell the truth now? Because that's all they want you to do. Once you take that stuff from them. You can't, when you try to tell the truth, you got to tell their lie. You got to. Why do you think them soldiers had to keep telling that lie? But as soon as you take it, you got to keep telling that lie. A bribe ain't just got to be that, right? Guess what it says? And I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten. He said that's all it is. Whatever they ate. That's why they gave Paul and Silas food. They gave them that food. After they got immersed, he said, set some food down, let them eat some food. Yeah, that's all I'm going to take. and share. He says, and the share of the men who went with me. We're gonna take the food. That's it. When we travel through lands, we have riches too. When the children of Yahusha came out, the only thing Yahuwah say, the only thing we supposed to buy is what? Food. Food. Something to eat. Something to drink. That's it. We ain't need nothing else. We don't need nothing else. We won't do no trade. We won't do none of that. We just want food. It says, let Ainera, Eskal, and Mamre take their share, right? And that's what it says right here. He said, they're going to take whatever they got. And it says, after these things, the word of Yahuwah came to Abraham in a vision, chapter 15. Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. Now you see how you got to continue in that reward. He's like, man, if I pass that test, I ain't take the goods from Lumeria. I rescued my brother. I saved him. I saved somebody. I didn't take the money from the slave master. And then now Yahuwah came and talked to me again. He's like, being that you did that, because remember, Yahuwah looking down, looking at your deeds. He said, what you did, your reward gonna be great. Because remember, Yahusha said in Hazum, he said, my reward come with me now, to give every man according to what he has done. And woman. But Abraham said, O Yahuwah Elohim, what will you give me? For I continue childless. Remember, why would Yahuwah give you something when you ain't passed the test? He had to pass all the tests. He had to pass all the different trials. He had to get rich too. And then when he got the riches, he got to be able to resist other money that he don't really need. I don't need that. I don't want that. He said, I go childless. And the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus. Because that's the only heir I got. And Abraham said, behold, you have given me no offspring. Who ain't giving you? He said, you gave me all these other riches and all this money. And a member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of Yahuwah came to him. This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, look toward the Shamayim and number the stars, the Qahalath. If you are able to number them, then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed Yahuwah, and he counted it to him as righteousness. Just because he said you're going to have a child, an heir. He said, you gave me all these riches, I ain't getting no child. I ain't even got no child, no heir. Guess what it says? And he said to him, I am Yahuwah, who brought you out from out of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to possess. I am Yahuwah, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. Because it was holding you back. It was holding you back from all the stuff that I was going to give to you. And the only way for me to give it to you, I had to get you away from them. And guess what they did? They pursued you too, like Amalek. They were following you around, they were spying on you, and they were looking at everything you got. You know why? Because they saw you were getting baracked. And you know what they come to you, and Amalek come to do? He come to take everything. You know what Satan come to take it. But he said, O Yahuwah Elohim, how am I to know I shall possess it? And he said to him, bring me a heifer of 3 years old and a female goat. We're going to skip over. Right? We're going to skip over. Right, because that's a part of it. Right? Going to, we're going to end this right now. This is the point of all this. This is the point of all this. Right? Right, so this is the book of, this is the book of, this is the book of Bereshit, chapter 17, Genesis chapter 17, verse 1. Bereshit 17:1. And when Abraham was 99 years old, Yahuwah appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am Yahuwah Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make a covenant between me and you, and multiply you greatly. And Abraham fell on his face, and Elohim said to him, behold, my covenant is with you, that you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham. So now he done changed the name. He gave him riches and money. He passed the test, right? And did all these things, but then he kept telling him to walk blameless. And he still ain't got no child. He still ain't got it though, even though Yahuwah promised him. He said, you're going to have an heir though. But you still got to go through some things. And guess what? He said, and guess what it says? But he had to change his name. For I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my berith, my covenant between you, me and you, and your offspring after you throughout your generations. For an everlasting covenant to be Elohim to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and to your offspring after you the land you are sojourning, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. Why? Because Yahuwah is a good man. A good man leaves his son an inheritance. It's an inheritance. Why do you think he gave it to him? He said, I'm going to give you this land, and then all the people after you are going to inherit the same land. It's called an inheritance. But what's the point of me giving you an inheritance to go possess a land when you ain't got no riches or anything to pass down to the inheritors? What's the point of me doing that? You got to have things to pass down to them in order for you to give them an inheritance, and for them to even get the inheritance, and then maintain the inheritance to give it to another generation. Which means that they got to have special instructions in order to maintain the inheritance to give it to another generation. But you know what happened to us? There was a breakage in the instructions. So therefore, when they got the inheritance, they mishandled the inheritance. And by mishandling the inheritance, they lost everything. They lost it all. That's what happened. You lost it all. You lost it all. Not only you made covenants with the inhabitants of the land, you also had behaviors that caused losses. And the more losses you had, the more debt you accumulated, and the more debt you accumulated, then you lose everything. Then you got enough money to pay your creditors. And when you ain't got enough money to pay your creditors, they come and take everything you got. And then they come and take all your children and your wives and make them their slaves. All because you mishandled your inheritance. And you're not paying attention to it. And that's what happens. And you know what happens when you become poor? Those who eat up poor like bread, they're going to swallow you up. They eat you up like bread. They're going to swallow you up. But Yahuwah is your refuge, though. You go and take refuge in him. But guess what? Verse 7. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring to you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant. To be Elohim to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and to your offspring after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. And Elohim said to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your offspring after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant, that you shall keep between me and you and your offspring after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Why do you think Qahalath and those circumcised men were all amazed when those Goyim people believed on his name and received the Ruach Qahalath? You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and this shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you, because this is a sign of the inheritance. It's like the signature that go in the inheritance pot. You know, the instructions that go in the inheritance that we messed up and lost. You know, all the stuff that we lost. All the funds, the gold, the silver, the cattle, the land, all the things we had, we messed it all up. We messed it all up because you learned the ways of the Goyim, and now you done messed it all up. But you don't care. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised. What month is this? This is the last day of the 8th month. He say, and Shalom will finish the house. Shall be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, whether born in your house or brought with your money, for any foreigner is not bought with your money. What do you mean? You gotta have money to increase your house. He was like, bought with money? How many, let me guess, you got money to pay employees? You gotta buy them, and then you gotta pay them continually. So you buy the person, then you gotta pay them continually so they can continue to have money and support their own family. You can do that. Then you're not on the level of Abraham. You gotta pay them a signing bonus, then pay them after that. You ain't not on the level of Abraham. Now you go get a job and you get a signing bonus. And then you go and pay them even more? No, you ain't got money like that. Bought with your money, for any foreigner who is not of your offspring, both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Now you see why all these are a part of how you messed up the inheritance. It's all gone. Right? Because it's supposed to be passed down. It's gone. We say we won't supposed to be living like this, you know. Who fault is that? We weren't supposed to be living like this. I know you would say, man, we ain't supposed to be living like this. Come on now, let's be real here. You ain't supposed to be living like that. You got a new covenant with Yahusha Mashiach, with all this stuff. No, you ain't supposed to be living like this. We ain't supposed to be living like this. I assure you that. Ain't no way in the world. Right? Please. Right? So shall my covenant be in your flesh, an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Right? This is all a part of it. Right? So this is the last couple of things. Right, there's a lot more. It's a lot more. People don't know. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. Go in the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms. Right. There's a lot more. Let's go to Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 17. One of my favorite books. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 17. I love those, Proverbs 8:17. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor are with me. He said, you broke my covenant. Hey man, who don't want nothing to do with it? He said, riches or honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. It was accounted Abraham for righteousness, because he believed me. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold. He said Abraham had a lot of silver and gold, but he said my fruits that you produce is better than your fine, and they're better than that. Even the gold that Shalom put on all the house. And my yield than choice silver. He said my yield is better than even the silver that you get. Notice how he got fruits and yield. Same thing he gave to Adam. Because you know what was better than Abraham's covenant and his riches? Well, he swore to Adam. Let us make Adam in our own image. And let him have authority of the fish of the sea, fowls of every creeping thing over all the earth. And every herb-yielding seed that bears fruit, trees yielding seed, let it be for food for you and for the animals. And guess what? I walk in the way of righteousness, in the path of justice and judgment, granting an inheritance. You know how I say, you know how people, they get them lamps and they put the genie on the lamp and they be trying to rub it. trying to get that thing to work. What wish do you grant? Right there. I want me to grant. But Yahuwah, like, I don't do that. You ain't got to get no urn, no gold urn, and rub it with the side of your right hand. And remember, you got to rub it with your right hand. Ain't that something? And people be like, well, you got to rub it with your right hand. Because they know what you got to do. They know you got to take your yard, and you got to put your yard on it, and you got to rub it with your yard. They know that. Verse 21, granting an inheritance to those who love me. So you got to love Yahuwah. You would say, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. If you love me, guess what? You'll do what I say. Because I'm your father who's giving you an inheritance. Why would you give an inheritance to a child who won't listen to you? Why do you think Abraham was trying to warn him about Esau? Man, don't you get that child don't listen to nothing you say? What you doing? He can't. No, you're not putting him as the head person of the inheritance. No, do not do that. Granting an inheritance to those who love me and filling their treasuries. So when your treasury start getting filled, just understand. Because Yahuwah allowed you to get it filled. With Hakmah, wisdom. Because if your treasuries are filled with wisdom, you know what that is. It's protection. And if it's just like the protection of money. It's just like the protection of silver and gold. Yahuwah possessed me at the beginning of his work. The first acts of old. Notice how you go from that. He possessed me in the beginning of his work. And guess what? Ages ago, I was set up at the first before the beginning of the earth. Who is that? Who can do that? I can't do that. Male and female can do that. Nobody on earth can do that. Guess what? All these are a part of it. Right, so going to Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 20. Let me show you this. Proverbs 20 and 20. If one curses his father and his mother, his lamp will be put out in utter darkness. He said, evil eye. The lamp of the body is the eye. You know why it's going to happen to you? You're going to lose your inheritance. Why would your mother and father give you the inheritance and put you the head of the inheritance when you cursing your mother and your father? That makes absolutely no sense. And you're going to have that evil eye. Just like Yahusha said. The lamp of the body is the eye. If that eye be full of darkness, how great is that darkness? An inheritance gained hastily in the beginning will not be baraked in the end. Now you see why he doesn't give us. We talked about it in the Solomon. When he talks about giving you money, he said, I give it to you moderately. How did Abraham get his wealth? He gave it over time. It was all moderately. Or you going to sin. You're going to start sinning. So he said, an inheritance gained hastily in the beginning will not be barak in the end. He said, if you got it real quick in the beginning, it's not going to be barak in the end. Because you know why? Because over time, trees die, leaves fall, leaves grow back, plants grow back. Trees die, leaves fall, trees go back. Some don't yield the same thing the next time. So each year it has to be done differently. Do not say I will repay evil. Right? This is why it's not barak in the end. Because Yahuwah going to judge you from the beginning of it or your life to the end. Do not repay evil. Wait for Yahuwah and he will deliver you. Because you know how it is. When things evil happen to you, you want to repay immediately. Boy, I want to take your behind out of this life. You done sold me this and you done messed this, you know what I'm saying, swindled me. I want to get your behind back. But how you get barak? By not doing it. Or you're gonna lose some of your inheritance. In the end. Right? Because that's the whole point. Right, going to Matthew. Going to Matthew chapter 28. Actually, no. Matthew chapter 21, verse 33. Matthew 21, 33. Here another parable. There was a master of the house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a winepress in it and built a tower and leased it to tenants and went into another country. So he's getting that residual income. He leased that thing. You know what happens when you lease? You pay that rent, right? You get money. And when the season of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants and to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants and beat one, and killed another, and stoned another. He said, "I come." His servants, these are the trustees. These are the people that's supposed to be taking care of his inheritance, right? You know how when you don't take care of the inheritance, right? And guess what? Again, he sent other servants, more than the first, right? He sent a lot more, and they did the same to them, right? Finally, he sent his son to them, saying, "They will respect my son, because he the inheritor." But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, "This is the heir." That's what people do today. Destroy your family. That's what Satan do today. He destroy your family structure. So what? They will respect my son, but the tenants saw the son. They said to themselves, "This is the heir." Why do you think they destroy you? Why do you think they separate you from your child? Why do you think they separate you from your son? This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and have his inheritance. That's what they do. Let us kill him and have an inheritance. Let me show you how deep this is. Let me see. And they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. Why would they kill him? And when therefore the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to these tenants? And they said to him, "He will put those wretches in miserable death, wretches to a miserable death, and let out the vineyard to other tenants who will give him their fruits in their season." Yahusha said, "Have you never read? The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." This was Yahuwah's doing. And is it marvelous in your eyes now? Guess what? Therefore I tell you, the kingdom of Elohim will be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruits. Because why would you kill the heir? He said, so I can take the money, take the inheritance. But he said, they rejected him, but not even knowing their fruits showed why they killed the son. But guess what? I'm talking about you people. Because once you understand this, I'm talking about you, that it's going to be taken away from the inheritance that you thought was going to be yours. Is going to be taken away from you and given to a people producing the fruits. That's supposed to be working the vineyard and adhering to the servants that you just beat up and you threw out and you killed. And you ain't going to do that no more. Because they're going to have the fruits of the Ruach. And the one who falls on this stone will be broken into pieces. And when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. Why? Because that's all a part of it. He said, why? Because if you understand it, then you understand it on the level you need to understand it. Right? That's the whole point. Right? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 27, and verse 1. Numbers 27 and 1. Numbers 27:1. Then drew near the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, from the clans of Manasseh, the son of Uzzah. The names of the daughters were Mahlah and Noah, and Hagalah, and Michal, and Tirah. And they stood before Mashah and before Eleazar the priest, and before the chiefs of the congregations, and at the entrance of the tent meeting, saying, Our father died in the wilderness. He was among the company of those who gathered themselves together against Yahuwah. Oh, you mean, you killed the son, the inheritor? We see the son. Let us kill the son that the inheritance may be ours, right? And you know what happened after that? In the company of Korah, but died for his own sin. So, you see that? And he had no sons. He said, man, he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be taken away from his clan because he had no son? Give us a possession among our father's brothers. Yeah, this is what they said. This is what the daughter said. And Mashah brought their case before Yahuwah, and Yahuwah said to Mashah, the daughters of Zelophehad are right. You shall give them possession of an inheritance among their father's brothers, and transfer the inheritance of their father to them. He said, the kingdom is going to be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruits. He said, our father, they went against Yahuwah. They killed the son. He said, yeah, I know. And guess what? Our father ain't had no son. Guess what happened? And you shall speak to the people of Yahusha, saying, if a man dies and has no son, why do you think Yahuwah said, I come? He said, for Allah he so loved the world, he gave his only son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. The stone which the builders rejected became the head of the corner. They killed the son. That's why Korah and all the men went against Yahuwah. But guess what happened? But if he had no son, why do you think Yahusha gave it the Ruach at the 9th hour? If he has no son, then you shall transfer the inheritance to his daughter. Because his inheritance is going to be passed either way. Whether there is a son or there is not a son. The inheritance is still going to find its way to the rightful owner of it. Regardless of what happens and what people do today. The inheritance is going to still be passed down. Whether you like it or not. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. Right. I said, we're going to talk about Dinah. Right? If he had no daughter, give it to his brothers, right? So this is all a part of it. I know people think this is the joke. All this is all part of it. And if he had no brothers, then you shall give the inheritance to his father's brothers. He said, man, it's still, so you saying it's still staying in the family. The thing don't go nowhere. There's somebody alive somewhere. It's timestamped. Somebody's alive. As long as somebody's alive, then the inheritance is still passed down to the rightful owner. Regardless. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give the inheritance to the nearest kinsman of his clan. And he shall possess it. It is not going nowhere. This inheritance ain't going nowhere. And it shall be for the people of Yahusha a statute and a rule as Yahuwah has commanded Mashah. So the people who got the inheritance now ain't even theirs. But guess what? Eventually, the inheritance is going to be given to his rightful owner. Eventually. There's a lot more. Oza Solomon, Oli Shaloma, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 2. My heart was pruned and the flower appeared. Isn't that what Shaloma had in the house? When he built the house in the 8th month? The flower was there on the walls, the palm trees, and sprang up in it and produced its fruits to Yahuwah. For the Most High circumcised me by his Dash Ruach. Then he uncovered my inward being towards him and filled me with his love. Isn't that what Yahuwah just read in Abraham? In his Ahab? And his circumcision became my salvation, and I ran in the way of peace and the way of truth. From the beginning unto the end, I received this knowledge. Because he's going to judge you from the beginning to the end. And I was established upon a rock of truth where he had sent me. And speaking waters touched my lips, and springs of Yahuwah generously. So I drank and became intoxicated by the living water that does not die. My intoxication was not with ignorance, because ignorance is a great evil, but I abandoned vanity, because his fruits is better than silver and gold. And I turned toward the Most High, my Elohim, and he enriched me by his favors. And I abandoned the folly and cast upon the earth and stripped off and cast it from me. And Yahuwah renewed me with his garment and possessed me by his light. And from above he gave me immortal rest. And I became like the land which blossoms and rejoices in its fruits. And Yahuwah is like the sun upon the face of the land. My eyes were enlightened, and my face received the dew. And my breath was refreshed by the pleasant fragrance of Yahuwah. And he took me in his paradise, wherein is the wealth of Yahuwah's pleasures. Right? He said that's where his wealth at. Because Yahuwah gave me an inheritance And when he gives an inheritance, I assure you, it's going, whether you like it or not, it's going to be taken from you and give it to another person. If you don't want it, he's going to take it from you and give it to another person. Nearest kinsman, it doesn't matter. It's going to always stay in the family, because all nations of the earth are going to be Barak. All the families of the earth are going to be Barak. Verse Sirach 3:17-23. My son, go on thy business in the Anu. So should thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble Anu, Anah, Sanah, Anah, Anua, thyself. And thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the Anu, the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great, and honor with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. It ain't needful for you to see them riches you're going to get in the future. Because it's a secret. You don't know how much you're going to give you. You don't know. It's uncertain. You don't know. You don't need to see it. If you see it now, you're going to start making plans. You're going to start, oh, yeah. You don't know how much it's going to be. You don't even know what you're going to have. You don't even know what the inheritance. You say, I'm going to get the inheritance. You don't know that. But he says, it's not needful for you to see what things is in secret. You don't need to know. You need to have a moon that Yahuwah going to increase you. Whatever it is, you have to get to the point. I guess that's what he gives me. You got to be content with what he gives you. And that's how you got to live your life. But be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men and women and children understand. Right? So we look at all that. We look at Yahusha Mashiach. We look at the light of life. Look at the true light. For Yahuwah has not cast away his people which he foreknew. But if he cast away his people which he foreknew, then his inheritance will not be able to be passed to the rightful people that it belongs to. For all these things that Yahuwah does, he keeps people alive just for that one point. See, how will the scripture be fulfilled if he destroys all the people of Yasharah? For there's no way he can cast away his people which he foreknew. For he has to keep them alive, and if they don't have no son, he got to keep it to the daughters. If the daughters ain't got no daughters, he got to give it to the sons, the nearest kinsmen, and the brothers and the sisters, and everybody who's still alive. There's no point in him doing that. For he has not cast away his people who foreknew. For he has to give it back to his people. Because Yahuwah is not a liar. He's not a liar. He's not going to lie. For we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward being. And we look at look at our outward man, our outer man perish, though our inward man is renewed day by day. Knowing that through his love and his hab and his abri lashon and his language and his knowledge and understanding, even though men can speak in multiple languages of the earth, but if we look at the language of the sanctuary and the language that Abraham, he swore to Abraham, knowing that language, the lashon that he spoke, it was an inheritance attached to it. And that inheritance that is attached to it is a part of the city that's going to come down from the highest Shamy'n, from the Shamy'n. And to be here on earth, we have no need of the Shamash or the Yard. For the Yahuwah and the Lamb, the Yahusha Mashiach are going to be the light thereof in that city. And the good deeds go to that city in salvation. And this inheritance is going to be given to the rightful owner. Because on the city is 12 tribes and 4 gates. 3 to the north, 3 to the south, and 3 to the east, and 3 to the west. And then those gates, he said, on the foundation of the 12 Shalakim, from the same tribes of Yasharah. And on those same gates of the 12 tribes of Yasharah, there are 12 pearls. And each one of those gates has three tribes. And understanding that in the middle of that sanctuary, in the middle of the house, is the most innermost parts. And that's where Yahuwah sits. And he sits and dwells inside. And all those on the outer court and those on the inner court will still be able to understand why you're on the outside, and you'll understand why you're on the inside. For all things that are without have certain behaviors, and all things that are within have certain behaviors. But that inheritance is not here yet. Everybody has an opportunity to inherit and bear the fruits of that inheritance. But that inheritance has a certain mindset and a certain behavior that can be used to manage it. And that's how one should look at their life when you pass things to other people. So they have the fruits that they can be able to manage it properly. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being. He said, make yourself worthy to be able to inherit the things that Yahuwah wants for you in your life, and to cast away that takes away things that take away your inheritance. So we look at everything, we look at all things as truth. And as we walk in truth, we look at everything that he gives and everything he takes away. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Anu shall inherit the Israelites.